in the first part of this annual portion, Matot, Moses talks about making vows. And, if a man makes a vow, then here's what he's supposed to do. He has to keep it. He has essentially created a new Torah commandment for himself. If he fails to keep it, that's a sin. If he makes a vow to Yahweh, well, that's a bigger sin. And for women, it's very similar. If a woman makes a vow, she has to keep it, unless her father or husband hears about it on the same day and cancels it. And so men can't get out of it. There are some traditions that say, well, based on the same principle, a man can get out of a vow if his rabbi hears about it on the same day and cancels it. But Torah doesn't really say that. So I understand the principle that somebody in spiritual authority is canceling their vow, but
I guess if the authority figure thought that you were making it in total ignorance, you know what I mean?
Like, and there are times where we make foolish vows. And you make a vow to commit a sin, then what do you do? But that comes into play here because Reuben and Gad have made a vow. These entire tribes have made a vow that if Moses gives them land on the east side of the Jordan, that they will go ahead and fulfill the command that God gave to go into the promised land and conquer it. They're gonna go in with the other tribes, and actually they're gonna go in front of them and kind of act as Israel's shock troops. So they're putting themselves on the front lines for the sake of what they perceive as better territory. And at the end of, I think it's in chapter 32, it says where Moses is telling them, this is what you've said you're going to do, so you better do it. And so they reply, what Yahweh has said to your servants, we will do. We will pass over armed before Yahweh into the land of Canaan, and the possession of our inheritance shall remain with us beyond the Jordan. But that's what Moses told them to do. So on what basis do they say this is what Yahweh told us to do? Well, Yahweh did tell them to go into the land and conquer it and get territory there. So they're not exactly following what Yahweh said. But Yahweh also said, if you make a vow, you have now made a new commandment for yourself. And if you violate it, you are breaking oath.
Where's that reference verse that you're talking about? Vow?
That's in chapter 30, right at the beginning.
Okay.
It says, if a man vows a vow to Yahweh or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. So according to that commandment, they have now made a new commandment from God for themselves. God told them, if you make a vow, you will do it. So now they made a vow so they can say, as Yahweh commanded us, we're going to do what we said we're going to do.
And what about a vow to the person? That's like a vow to Yahweh, but what about vow to person?
Well, it says it includes that too. The first part is if a man vows a vow to Yahweh. The second part is, or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge.
Okay.
So that would be anything that a man can say, I'm going to do whatever. Which is, why Yeshua can say, don't swear oaths on the altar or the temple or any of that stuff. Just say what you're going to do and do it. Because once you say you're going to do it, you've now bound yourself. So if you don't plan on carrying it out, keep your mouth shut. Don't make promises that you don't intend to keep.
So vow could be just saying, like not I vow to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's like if you tell somebody, I am going to do this.
That's your vow.
Yeah. You got to do it. And that's why
but it's not sent. This is specifically, everything is speaking just about the Lord, not a person. Or even or swears to obligate himself by a pledge is still continuing the sentence of speaking about the Lord.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I think Moses is covering all the bases there. I think the first part is talking about a vow to Yahweh. The second part is saying, or if you just say, this is what I'm going to do. I think that's what he's getting at. And I could be wrong, but that's what I think he's saying. And that's why I think that Reuben and Gad can reply the way that they do. Because, well, for one thing, they have made a vow to Yahweh here. So it works either way. And one of the side effects is that they as part of their vow, they say, we're going to leave our flocks and our wives and our children behind. We're going to build these cities. We're going to take care of our livestock, and then we're going to take care of our wives and children. And Moses replies, okay, you're going to build these cities and, fortify the walls and take care of your wives and children. Then you're going to take care of your livestock. He kind of flips it around on them to make sure they've got their priorities straight. But even so, they're leaving their wives and their children behind in a hostile country while they go off to war in a different hostile country. So they have to trust God that, if we're going to obey God, then he's going to take care of the rest. And they've asked for a special dispensation here in being on the other side of the Jordan. And it is within the eventually promised promised land, but God gave it to them in stages. They were supposed to go across the Jordan, conquer that territory first. Then, after they had settled there, at some point in the future, God was going to say, okay, now you expand and conquer this other territory. And that happened a little bit under David. David and Solomon both expanded their borders all the way up to Damascus, to the Euphrates River. They almost conquered the entire territory that God had said was supposed to be Israel's, but not quite.